So what we've got for you is Dicko was a past student. He went here in the 1970s, right? So a few years back. As a past student, Jen has been employed by Newcomb Secondary to form what's called an alumni, which is a group of past students that still want to have an association with the school, surprising as that is for some of you, because you're out here like a shot and that's it. But after you've left school, you do have pretty fond memories of your time at school, and it's really good to catch up with people from past and what they've done. So we've asked Dicko to come along today because he has the best job ever as a surfboard shaper down at Torquay, and he works with clients designing to meet their needs, find out what sort of things they need, gets in and does all the shaping, and he's going to tell you a little bit about how he meets all that. So why we've got you guys in is it's just a really good work to life connection, so you can see real life how the stuff we're doing actually fits into practice.
So it's my pleasure today to welcome Darren Dixon into our classroom to talk about his journey since leaving school and to share some of his expertise as a surfboard shaper and a business owner for the past 30 years. So welcome, Darren, and thanks for joining us.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourself, what you did after year 12 and what you do now?
Yeah, sure. Once I finished school, I did a 4-year apprenticeship as a graphics reproducer. And I was still surfing. I'd surf right through the school years. But then after I finished my apprenticeship, I decided that I would rather go and make surfboards and shape surfboards and have more of a lifestyle and just going to work every day doing a 9-to-5 thing. So, now I can get up at, like this morning, get up at 6, hit the water at 6:30, get an hour in the water, come to work, shape a board, probably go for another surf. Even after this class, I'll probably go for another surf, then come back and shape another board and then go home and then do it all again tomorrow. So it's more of a lifestyle thing for me with particularly getting into the surfboard industry. That was the only way that I was going to be able to just surf every day, is get into the industry so I can get those flexible times to be able to do it and basically get paid to go surfing. So it's a pretty good lifestyle.
Sounds like it. Could you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and why you love surfing?
Well, I started basically back in the day when we were, really young kids with not even going to surf spots. We were in Clifton Springs back in the day when I was a kid, and just going to the local beaches, and it might have been sort of onshore sea breezy things, and getting pushed in on little foamies by mum or whatever, and just zooming along little sort of frothy whitewatery waves, but thought this is pretty cool. And then as we got older and we went on holidays and we went to places like Warrnambool or even Torquay and those sort of places, and there was more good surf, the same thing, just on little foamies, catching little whitewatery waves, standing up and just thinking, hey, this is pretty cool fun. Still, we still did stuff like play footy and cricket and tennis like all the other kids did, but it was just on the holidays and it was like, let's go surfing. And then by the time I got to high school, and there was a few of us at high school that, we tried any way that we could to get to the surf. And if that meant staying at mates' places that lived in coastal areas like Ocean Grove, Bowen Heads, or even Torquay, we'd stay there on the weekends and surf, or, even some weekends we hitchhiked. So any way we could to get to the surf, that's what we did, and tried to base our life around it after that once we'd left school. So, which a few of us have done with our jobs. So, yeah, it worked out really well.
Yeah, and what about the subjects that you did at school? What were you good at? And can you tell us how that has helped you now in life?
Well, probably the best I did at school was in any of the arts and graphics classes, sport. That was about it. Not too bad at English. Maths, no, I should have been better at maths. Would have helped with accountancy. But the being good and getting good marks with all my art classes and graphics classes, particularly when I left school and became a graphics reproducer. And now with surfboards, I do all the art. I design all my own logos. I do all the airbrushing and all the colour work, pin lining, whatever design work the customer asks for. I do all that on our boards, and so yeah, that did come in handy for doing what I'm doing now for sure.
You said earlier on about getting an apprenticeship to do this. What was the apprenticeship? Is it in surfboard shaping, or what's the actual?
No, there's no apprenticeship actually. It's, you know, like when I started, you know, I found I actually started off, you know, like a lot of the other crew, you might be going into a certain factory, getting your boards repaired, getting to know the guys, and you just ask them, you know, like, show me how to do a few repairs. So you might start doing that, and then learning how to use the air guns and matching colours and that sort of thing. And then I found a surfboard blank that actually had the nose cut off for some strange reason, and I just sort of went, all right, well, I'm going to shape that and shape it into a board. So one of the guys just sort of watched and helped me what I was doing and just shaped the board, and it came out really well. And then I airbrushed it and put a pretty cool spray on it, and we actually sold it and sold it out of one of the shops down here and got a good price for it. And I thought, well, I can keep doing that. That seemed pretty cool. So it's really hard. It's actually really hard to get into. You know, a lot of crew that get into it just basically go and buy themselves a surfboard blank, and, you know, they might start doing some stuff from home, and, you know, might even bring it into us guys to do the glassing and the finishing and that for them. And then it's a similar concept that they might start getting a few more orders if they're good at it. If they, you know, you can see that they're improving and their boards are getting better. But it is quite hard to get into. You know, not everybody can pick up a piece of foam, throw some templates on it, and come up with a surfboard, because there's a lot more to it than that, like with the hydrodynamics and where the fins go and fin placements and rail shapes and stuff like that. So it's probably pretty good to have a pretty good surfing background behind you and a good idea of how boards work first, and then you can sort of go from there and then, you know, try and shape a board. I actually, we can't do it at the moment, but last year I did quite a lot of shaping tutorials where I'd have guys come in a couple of hours on a Sunday and basically teach them how to shape a board. So, and I'd try and get them to do most of the work. You know, I'd come in and keep an eye on them and just make sure they were using the tools right and the electric planer right and that sort of thing. And a lot of them were pretty good. They actually didn't do too bad a job. There's only a few that I had to sort of tweak things and touch up things, but other than that, and a lot of them, most of them, just basically when they'd finished it, they were pretty stoked with the outcome of their board, but they said they'd never do it as a job. It was just too hard, just way too hard trying to work everything out. But if you know, like with me, if you love doing it, and it's a lot easier now than what it used to be, of course. But it's just that's about the only way you can sort of get into the industry. It is pretty hard.
Tell us what your apprenticeship was all about.
Yeah, I did a 4-year apprenticeship in Melbourne at a graphics house, doing graphics reproduction. So we were doing a lot of stuff, a lot of colour combination and 4-colour combining and photography work and that for high-end magazines, but also for the newspapers at the time, the Sun, the Herald, the Age. And then, yeah, as I said, a lot of high-end coffee table books with photography and that, and we do all the colour work. And we didn't have computers back then. We just had to do it all by hand. So all the full colour stuff, you know, that probably takes someone an hour to do these days, we could work on for a few days back in those days, because there was no computers. That's just the way it was. But we still got the work done, and yeah, it was really good. It was actually a good apprenticeship. It was a big learning experience with what you could actually do with graphics and art and do stuff by hand. So, and even with photography, there's some aspects of that we had to know. So, it was actually a really good apprenticeship.
What have you taken from that into your current job?
Well, it's come in handy over the years with designing all my own logos, particularly once computer work did come in. Like I could do a lot of all of my logos are freehand. I've done all the art and the artwork, but because I've got mates that are still in the industry, and now there's a lot of these places all over the joint that with printers and that, and a lot of guys doing stuff straight from computer to printing press. I can get a lot of my own logos that I've designed and hand them off to these guys, and they can just sort of tweak them for me on the computer and clean them up and then print them and get them printed on tissue paper. So, you know, like it sort of starts with, I don't know whether you can see them properly, with some of the logos that I've done freehand over the years, my longboard logo. That's my new shortboard logo. So there's sort of things that I've done by hand that I sort of roughed out, and I've done all the colorway and that, and then I give them to the guys, the graphics guys, and they just tweak them for me, and then they all get they're all printed on tissue paper, which then get glassed onto the boards. So it's come in real handy it's been really good, like over the years, for doing that, even for clients too that want boards done as trophy boards or wall hanging boards. We can sort of get all their artwork and put it on boards and glass it on, and then they can hang on walls or give them away as awards or charity stuff, all that sort of thing. So yeah, it has come in handy for sure.
You said about you doing the graphics.
Yep.
Do you do that by hand, or is it computer drawn, or what way do you do it?
99% of the graphics that I've done over the last 35 years, I've just done by hand. You know, when I left school, when I left there and did my apprenticeship as a graphics reproducer, there was no computers, there was no such thing. So yeah, we were doing like 4-color work and 4-color combining and stuff like that, all by hand. And with all my logos that I've done over the years, a lot of them, well, nearly all of them, actually all of them have been, I'll sketch out and do all the stuff by hand. And in the last probably 10 years, I'll take that artwork to mates of mine that are pretty switched on computers, and they just sort of tweak them up and clean them up for me. But other than that, I just sit down and come up with a design and draw it, and then get it finished off.
Can you tell us about the key skills that you reckon you need to be a surfboard shaper?
Well, I suppose actually being good at arts help, because you have to have a good eye. But you know, with boards, with using your templates and making sure all the curves with your measurements all fit, and so you have to have a pretty good eye at doing that, which, you know, you've got to have a good eye for art. So yeah, that's where that's sort of come in handy. And even with crew, I've noticed over the years with some mates of mine that have been really good at carpenters and cabinet makers and even panel beaters, because they've all got a really good eye with what they're doing. It's seeing straight edges and curves and stuff like that. When they've had a go at actually shaping a board, they've actually done a really good job, because they can see a lot of what I can see with bumps and lumps and curves. So that does come in handy. You know, if you're not really good with your hands like that, it can be quite difficult. Particularly, you know, if you don't get the curves matching, it really stands out. You can see it a mile away. But those guys, usually with the carpenters and cabinet makers that are good with their hands, they can usually shape a pretty reasonable sort of board. So yeah, if you're just good with your hands like that, and you can see things really well, and even like with artists too, they can do a really pretty good job of a finished board.
Yep. Could you talk us through the process of how to make a surfboard?
Sure. I don't know whether if you guys can see where I've got all these logos, some of the tools. They're basically woodwork tools as well, spoke shaves, electric planers, that sort of stuff we use. But most boards, they start off as a blank, what we call a blank, which is, I'll get rid of this stuff, which is that. So it's pretty close to like a shape of a board. And then I have measurements that for the tail, for the midpoint, and for the nose. That then I'll put those measurements on there with some dots, and then over in the corner over there, I don't know whether you can see or not, there's hold on, there. Over there you'll see some templates that are sitting on the floor. Is that better? Down there. So with those templates, that they're all different templates for different styles of boards, whether they're short boards, long boards, fishers, stuff like that. So then I'll match up those curves to the marks that I have on this blank. And then once I've drawn that on there, then I can have a visual of what the board's going to look like. And then I can cut it out and then start using my electric planer and mowing the foam down on the bottom and then cutting it out and then finishing it all off by hand. So that's basic. That's sort of an edited version of how it sort of all works once I've cut the board out. And then, there's a lot of other stuff that goes into it with the bottom line, the bottom curve of the board. So there's that hydrodynamic thing of, getting the curves right so that the board actually works. And then once it's finished, I route out, use my routers to put in fin plugs, and then it goes off to the glassing area and gets fiberglassed. And then usually when it's finished being fiberglassed and sanded, it can come back to me and then I can actually then do whatever artwork's going to be on it. If it's something that's, pin lines or a rail spray or whatever, and then I just go from there and finish the board off, and then we put a clear finish over that, and then it's the customers.
So when a client comes in, a brand new client, how do you work out what they need and what they want?
Usually, someone comes in and wants a custom board. I ask them, their experience, how long they've been surfing, whether they're starting out or they've been surfing for a couple of years, or they're quite an experienced surfer that's pretty good. Where they surf, which breaks they surf at, so particular waves that they surf. And then I can go from there. I can see their height, get their weight, so we know how much foam to put in the board, how much foam to take out, and then whether they want a high performance short board, if they want to go down that track, or a long board, or if it's someone starting out, it's usually a long board, so it's a lot more stable, easy to paddle, helps them to learn. A lot of guys that come in that are quite experienced surfers have got a pretty good idea of what they want. And then they run that by me, and then I might help them tweak it a little bit, make some changes, and then go from there. And then I can usually work out from there, once I get all that information, of what sort of board they need, or what these, some of the good guys, it's pretty straightforward. They sort of know what they want, and then we can just go from there and work it out.
Is there a lot of back and forth as you're going through the process?
There is, particularly some of the guys that, they might be fairly sort of switched on and know what they want. So then they might actually run it by me as to what sort of tweaks we can do to change things and make things better, or, like for an improvement from their last board. So I do. But a lot of the crew that come in that are learning or intermediate, a lot of them sort of give me an idea of what they want, and then they leave it up to me. Especially if they're not really switched on with boards, I can sort of run some dimensions and measurements by them and what sort of board they probably do need. And a lot of times they just leave it up to me. They trust me to do that. And then we can get them, if it's something that they need that's going to help them catch more waves, put more foam in it, and get them actually surfing better, then a lot of the times they just say, look, they'll leave it to me. I can work it out, and we go from there.
Yeah, and what about the artwork side of things? Do you tend to have a lot of questions for them in terms of what they want, or how do you work out what design they want?
With artwork, a lot of the times, some people will come in and they've got something they've either drawn or they've gotten off the internet, or even, some crew, I just say, look, go onto my Instagram page. That's where all my boards are. They might screenshot it, bring that in. They want something very similar, or maybe change the colours a little bit. Some guys will just bring in stuff on a piece of paper that they've hand drawn, just put the colours on there and where they want it, how they want it. And then other guys, I've got a few at the moment, have just said, look, I like red, white and blue. Just do something with that, or pick out some colours and run them up. So, we get sort of a lot of different questions with artwork like that as to how they can get what they want onto the board. But most of the time, if they bring in a photo or a drawing of what they want, I can usually get it pretty right for them and get the colours right, and then they're happy.
Yeah. Do you do all of that by hand?
Yes. Most of the colour work on the boards, like I airbrush, a lot of masking and taping and stencil work and stuff like that. When it sort of gets to some more intricate stuff, like even with photos, if they want a photo on the bottom of a board, like with some of the marketing stuff that we do, then I'll get that actually printed onto it's like silk, and then we'll actually match it up to the shape of the board and glass it on, and then we can, especially with some of the stuff that's advertising and that too, that's all done on computer. It just gets printed out, we glass that on, and then finish it off, goes up on a wall, or it might be a trophy even, and then some of that really intricate stuff that we could do it by hand, but it could take 6, 7, 8 hours or more, whereas we can get this done and it's done straight away for us and straight onto the board.
How about working with maybe a difficult client or a client who can't quite communicate what it is that they've got in their minds? How do you draw that out of them?
Yeah, you get that quite a bit. A lot of crew that sort of they're asking for boards that you can sort of, like a guy might be a pretty big guy, 6'2", 95 kilos, but he really wants a board that's designed for someone that's only 5'9" and 60 kilos. And you try to explain to them as to why it's not going to work for them. They're just too big. But they sort of want to insist on it. So I can do something pretty similar to what they want, or it looks like what they want, but I can put a lot more foam in the board to help with the paddling and the flotation. And I can sort of do a lot of tweaks to the board. So it looks like the board that they want, but it's more the board they need. And so I can then get them on that board, and they're usually, they could be happy campers after that. And then I know that, the board's actually going to paddle properly for them, catch waves, do everything that the board that they actually, they were talking about does, but it's suited to them more, but they won't be able to pick the difference with what I've done to the board. So they can usually then be sort of pretty happy about it, and then just catch more waves, and they're going to catch more waves. So you can sort of do little tweaks like that, and what they don't know won't hurt them. And if they're happy and they're catching waves, then it's a bonus.
Yep.
What is your inspiration when you make a board?
Well, when I do one for myself, it might be something that it might be something that I either haven't ridden or haven't ridden, like say for example, it's a twin fin. I mightn't have ridden a twin fin for a long time, and I might see something on YouTube or whatever and think, oh yeah, geez, I haven't surfed one of those boards for a long time, so I'll use that and go and do my version of it. Or even just seeing guys in the water, there's certain boards that they might be surfing that I might have a look at and think, yep, I might do something very similar to this. Or even customers that come in that want to get something different, and even if it's something pretty bizarre, we'll sort of nut it out, and then after I finish doing it, if I really like what it sort of looks like and think that this is a pretty viable sort of board, I might even copy it and do one for myself. Like at the moment, asymmetrical boards, which have sort of got one side of the board's different to the other. In America, last summer, a lot of crew were doing those. I hadn't actually ridden one myself, so I shaped myself one, and found it was just so fun. I still surf the board, and so that was really good inspiration, seeing those guys doing stuff like that. And then and I know that they've been doing asymmetrical boards since the 60s, and with single fins back in the day and that. But I just decided, all right, well, it's time to try one myself, and it was really good fun. So it's good to see stuff like that, try it, because you just never know. It might be something completely different that you've never surfed before, or have never thought of surfing before, and then all of a sudden you do one and it actually works really well. And it's like, wait a minute, this is pretty cool. Let's do some more of them. So, then you can pass that on to customers as well that have questions about, all right, what's an asymmetrical board? How does it work? Why does it work? And then, they might take the chance and get one. And a lot of the times that we have done them, the guys have been pretty stoked with them, and it's just they the same thing. They weren't really sure about it. They tried one, loved it, and then they'll, like some of them will even come back and say, let's do another one, but maybe change the size a little bit. So seeing things online and guys just surfing different things, that sort of gives me a lot of inspiration to try different things.
Can you tell us about starting your own business? Any tips that you might have for us?
Even when I left school, I did my apprenticeship and you sort of think, oh, well, I've done a 4-year apprenticeship as a graphics artist. This is sort of it, but it's not. It might be a couple of jobs later that you might all of a sudden fall into something that you love. But I decided once I started tinkering around, doing some board repairs, and then made my first board and went from there and sort of was like, well, wait a minute, this is a way better lifestyle choice. Yeah, I'm never going to make as much money as what I probably would have if I had stayed being a graphics reproducer, but I got a better lifestyle. So, I get to surf every day, shape a board every day, still get to surf maybe once, twice a day, and just have a way better lifestyle. So for a lot of people, particularly these days and the way way things are going at the moment, that's a better choice. That, a lot of people might now enjoy working from home, and if it's their own business, and it's pretty scary when you do start your own business, because, you've just started, you've got no clientele, you've got to get clientele. So you've got to be pretty confident in the work that you're doing a good job, and you're starting to get a lot of feedback, whether it's online or word of mouth. And like with us, it's word of mouth because, you build good boards and people surf them. Then all of a sudden their mates are sort of like, wow, that board goes unreal. I'm going to go and get one. And then you start building up a clientele that a lot of the guys will keep coming back and getting your product. So all of a sudden you're sort of starting to make money with basically, like you could say, a hobby. And then it turns into a full-time business, and you're running your own business, like with me, shaping surfboards, doing art still. And even with the art side of it, I still get canvases that, I might even use leftover resin and throw that all on canvases instead of throwing it out and selling canvases. I get people coming in and might see one just sitting there and want to buy that. So that's pretty cool as well. But you got to realize once you leave school that you might not end up doing the job you think you're going to do. You might actually find something better. And if you stick to it and you believe in what you're going to do, and it's giving you a good lifestyle, but you're still getting paid to do it, then by all means, do it. Do what you love. Because then all of a sudden, like with me, it's like 35 years later, that's like, where did that go? It doesn't even feel like I've been making boards for that long, because that's what I love doing. I get to surf every day, go on overseas trips or, wherever at the moment, it might be just down the coast, but it's just doing what I love doing and basically getting paid to do it. So if you can find a job like that and that you love doing, and then do it. And if it's pretty scary at the start, and it will be for a few years, like I had to have second part-time jobs for the first X amount of years, 5, 6, 7 years, to still keep money coming in to pay bills and rent and stuff like that. But then once you start becoming more and more successful and doing more and more work and getting busier and busier, you can drop the second job, and then all of a sudden you're just making your own money, and it's your job, it's your business. And once you start sort of becoming more successful, well, that's just a bonus. And now with the stuff that I do, and trying to get switched on in this century with being on all my advertising's done on Instagram and Facebook. I'm hoping that I've got a web page just about finished. Hopefully that'll help a little bit more, but I'm getting a lot of orders off those social media forums anyway, so I know they work. And it's a matter of for someone like me, going through school, and there was, the only thing you had then was a calculator. There was no such thing as laptops and computers and phones and stuff like that. And the same when I left school. So for me now, it's still a big learning experience, learning how to use all this social media now, particularly for advertising and even looking up graphics for boards and that sort of thing, and looking at how boards work online, overseas and that sort of stuff. So it's been a really, and I think, a lot of crew my age should be doing that. It's the 21st century, get with it. Learn to use your phones properly, learn to use your laptops properly, and get all this information on there. There's plenty of info out there that you can get, that it doesn't matter how old you are, it's going to work. So I use my phone and all that sort of stuff to do that. And but particularly once I got shown how to use Instagram properly and Facebook properly and all those other medias to advertise, to actually just advertise, it's worked really well. And I get people coming in that aren't sort of quite sure what they want for their colours and graphics on their board. So I just say, look, go on my Instagram account. There's thousands of boards on there. You'll find something. So most of the time, 99% of the time, they come back with a screenshot of one of the boards and bingo, off we go. So it's a continual learning experience. But I think that, these days, you just got to, if you think you know everything about what you're doing, even with me doing boards for 35 years, there's still new stuff that I'm always finding and doing.
And you've got a couple of employees, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, there's in the factory, there's me doing the shaping and all the artwork and stuff. And then there's one of the other guys does our glassing and sanding, finishing off the boards. And then we have another guy doing all the repairs. He's downstairs just to do repairs. And then one of the ladies that works here, she does wetsuit repairs, board bag repairs, makes leg ropes and stuff like that. So it's sort of it's a good little factory. We there's a lot of stuff that we do. We diversified and just wanted to make sure that we just weren't making surfboards, that we are doing repairs, whether it's our boards or whoever's boards, we do a ton of them. And also with the girls downstairs with the wetsuit repairs, they're repairing just about the whole industry. But, people can just walk in and need a wetsuit repaired. It might be a $30 repair, but it keeps their wetsuit going instead of spending another $600. And so, yeah, it's a good little shed that we're in.
Yeah, and now that you've got employees, what makes a good worker? What makes you really employable?
You just got to be able to get on with the crew that you're working with. You're going to have highs and lows. You're going to have disagreements, but get over it. We're all doing our own thing in here with the various things that we do. Like, I'm not going to go out and glass boards. That's the glasses job. I could do it, but I'm not going to, because I know he'll do a better job than me and do it quicker. But yeah, you just got to get on with the crew that you work with. You can always work problems out. So that sort of helps in a big way, and then it makes for a better work environment, because there's nothing worse than if you're going to go to work and you don't enjoy working with the crew around you, and you can't work out problems and stuff like that. You just got to make sure that when these crew start working either for you or just with you, that they're doing what you want. I've got to get these guys to be able to get the colours right if they're doing glass tints, and get the finishes right. And if they do all that, you can just leave them go and do that and trust them. They're going to get the job done. And by the time that board's finished, or it comes back to me to finish it off with artwork or whatever, no problems. It's cool. The customer's happy. The guys in here are happy. They all get paid. And so, yeah, it's a good work environment.
And coronavirus has affected your business in a bit of a surprising way. Could you tell us how that's gone for you lately?
It's when this first happened, like in the first lockdown, I think that might have been March or something. We were sort of busy. It was starting to slow down a little bit. And we a few of us down here thought that once the first lockdown started, that we probably wouldn't get any work because there'd just be nobody around. But with that first lockdown, that, people couldn't play any sport, golf, they couldn't go fishing, couldn't play footy and all that sort of thing. But the one thing they could do was go surfing. And all of a sudden our orders went through the roof, and they still are. It's massively busy because people could still go surfing and still wanted surfboards. So And even with this second stage, like I know it's only Melbourne that's sort of in lockdown, but we do get a lot of surfers from Melbourne coming down our way to surf. But we're still getting, you know, people from the Geelong, Ballarat, some of the country areas that are still ordering boards that can still go surfing. So for us, it's been, you know, it's been good in a bad way sort of thing, but it's just kept us, and I know it's kept us really busy, and it's also been a really, really good autumn of waves, and winter's been, you know, pretty reasonable. So there's been a lot of surf as well. So not only has that brought in a lot of work for new boards, it's also brought in a lot of work for repairs. So it's kept the repair guys pretty busy as well. So it's actually made, you know, autumn and now through winter go pretty quickly because we've been so busy. So, you know, I've been paddling out basically in the dark in the mornings trying to get an hour of, you know, hour and a half of surf, and then shaping one or two boards during the day, or shaping one, then going for another surf after lunch, and then shaping another one just sort of early evening to try and get at least a couple of boards done a day just to keep up. The only thing that's been frustrating is getting supplies, because a lot of it comes from Sydney and interstate. So that's been sort of a bit hard. But other than that, once I think I've got a container load of blanks coming in next week. So once they drop, then I'll just start mowing a heap of foam again. So in a way, it has been good for us for sure. It's kept us really busy.
Has anyone got any questions at all?
Yeah. What's the most expensive board you've made?
Geez. Oh yeah, I did a couple of 12-footers last year that had all the bells and whistles, had beautiful coloured tints put on them, polishes. They were sort of up around the 2,000. They were over 2,000. They were close to $3,000 boards. And they were just for guys to surf. They just wanted to surf these extremely long boards. So they are probably the most expensive ones we do. And occasionally we might do some shorter boards for some companies that want both top and bottom of the board with full company logos. So it's a lot of work. That's a lot of man hours doing that sort of thing. And they can be up around the same sort of price range, because it just takes us so long to do them. There's a lot of taping up, cutting out, cutting by hand. So, yeah, they can be sort of up there too as well. But, you know, those boards are getting used as promotional, or they might be even getting used in raffles or prizes as trophies. So we have to get those ones without a mark on them. They've got to be spot on. So they can be quite expensive as well.
What advice would you give to your teenage self?
Yeah, be better at maths. Other than that, you know, like the school years there at Newcomb were good. You know, I didn't go right through to year 12. I think I left at the start of year 11 or something, but for all the years I was there, it was pretty cool. You know, it's, you know, knocking around with all your mates and doing whatever you do, get up to mischief, shenanigans and stuff. But yeah, I actually don't think I'd change much at all. It was all pretty good. And even you know, the first couple of years after leaving school, I didn't have any regrets then of, you know, not subjects that I didn't do or subjects that I should have done better. And I still don't. It's you know, it's like, well, I ended up getting a pretty good job. You know, becoming pretty successful at what we do. It might take 20 years in the surfboard industry to become successful. And you're still learning. I'm still learning every day with shaping, just with doing different things. But, you know, like, yeah, I have no regrets about that. And just the stuff that I did at school was good. And even the subjects that I did come in handy for after I left school.
And they've got to remember that their teachers are actually really nice people too. They won't realise that till after they've left school.
Yeah, you don't realise that till 35 years later when you're shaping surfboards today. Wait a minute, the teachers weren't actually that bad. So, yeah, look after it.
Ken would just like to say a few things for you. So
Come up.
can you see where you are? Right, there you go. Right, you're in the
Yeah,
screen.
have a seat.
Yeah.
Thanks for like being here and doing this for all of us.
Cool. No worries.
all year 11s. I'm actually year 12. That's come from a different class.
Yep.
But yeah, it's just good for students like us to see where people go.
Yeah, that's fantastic. No, it was a pleasure. I enjoy doing this sort of stuff. It's good. If it's going to help like you guys, then I'm all for it. Fantastic. Thanks.
All right, well, everybody wave and you can duck back to your class. Guys, I'll let you in.
All right, we're just about out of time, so can we ask a student to...
Thank you so much for your time. We
Cool.
really appreciate you taking time out of your day, your work day, to come and talk to us.
No, that's fine. Don't worry. I enjoy doing this stuff. And if I've helped in any way, then I'm stoked. I hope so.
Let's give him a clap.
All right, we're good. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks. Surfboard. Look. Surfboard. Big surfboard.
Yep, give us the tour.
There you go. Bit of advertising. Woo-hoo. Thanks, crew. See ya.
See ya.